Okay, hello, uranium friends. Checking in on the uranium ETFs URA, URNM, URNJ. So last I made a video last week on URA, and we were talking about the possibilities of the head and shoulders topping pattern. It's not as clear and as defined as it is on URNM or URNJ. As we can see, the very clear right here. These levels are right in line with each other. Same thing with URNJ. But we'll talk about URA for the moment because this is where the most volume is. This is where the big money is going to flow. It has relevance. I know plenty of you guys say, oh, no, it's not a pure uranium miners play. Whatever. Okay. Strong option chain, tons of volume, plenty of liquidity. People with larger amounts of money are going into this name. So, regardless of these head and shoulders patterns, and we're going to zoom into each one just to take a better look. But, I talk about moving average riders. Commodities love to do it. Uranium is no different, right? So, again, riding this 12 EMA all the way up, loses it, gets a nice little bounce, tries to get over, can't, using it as resistance. Same deal here with URNM, rides it all the way up, loses it, gets its bounce, can't get over it. It's now resistance. Same deal with URNJ. There is different, no difference here with any of these ETFs as far as that's concerned. So they are EMA, daily 12 EMA resistance is the key at the moment for these ETFs. What we do have, and you'll see it on all these, and when we zoom in, we're starting to get these moving average squeezes, and where the price action starts to, it looks like it's going to be contained a little bit in between these two moving averages. You can see it on all three of these ETFs. The URNM and URNJ, it's a little bit wider, but everything's happening within these two within these moving averages. So again, that's another thing where I can say, okay, well, has something changed yet? So there's if it gets above the 12 EMA again, well, it could be game on again, right? So then you have to be concerned about, um, you know, the resistance up here, 27, which I talked about in a previous video, as being a possibility of this right shoulder. So let's just start zooming in a little bit on these ETFs so we can see if we can garner some more information. So, in the last video, I kind of identified through multiple time frame analysis that 2450 was the possibility of a bounce spot, and it did it. It got that bounce, but when you start to look at this, it starts to you get a little bit more clarity. So we had this, the short-term move, and this thing can provide a lot of fake outs, this 5 EMA, these crosses. So I don't put a ton of weight into them, but it's giving a little bit more of an early heads-up signal that maybe we still do have some downside left. I don't know. I don't make those predictions. I just I go by the day by day action, and I play it that way. But what we do have, so let's just make this assumption that we do have this head and shoulders type look to it. It's not the best, it's not perfect, okay? But the psychology is there. So now, if I'm going to say, all right, well, maybe this is a head and shoulders, well, I'm going to use this as the neckline, which is 25. And for the ease of math, let's just say it's 2840. So that gives me 340, right? So 25 minus 340 gets you 2160. So I start to look down at 2160, and lo and behold, right in here we actually have a gap here. And what's the low of the gap? 2257. So to me, it wouldn't be unreasonable for this measured move or for this possible daily head and shoulders to find its way down into the gap fill. Now, it, do the I don't want to see that happen, but are there some levels along the way that we could say, all right, maybe we get some support. So, as I'm going to put us on a weekly for a moment here because I put this white line before I made this video because I wanted to find a place where there's action. So you can see this line. I mean, there's so much action here, and the volume profile indicates that there is there. So resistance, support, 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 resistance, support, resistance. All right. So there's a lot of price action in this $24. 2384 is actually the number, but again, for just the ease of this video, let's just say it's $24. So there's a lot of price action there. So we're going to see, maybe this is just comes down and consolidates at 24, and then we're going to have to wait to see what the next leg is. Does it then bounce and move on forward, or does it continue on down into these areas? But I do have this in my mind now because I've got a gap fill area that kind of fits in with this measured move off this possible daily head and shoulders. That's looking likely that there's a formation here. But at the moment, for me, it's kind of like I'm in a holding pattern. Because I want to see what's happening here with this consolidation. If we get sideways and builds a little bit of a base and a range, then then I'm going to wait to see how the range breaks. If the range breaks bull, I'm probably going to take a stab at it bullish. If it breaks bear, I'm probably just going to sit on my hands and wait until I find another buying opportunity. So that's kind of where we are with URA. It's just for me, it's just watching and holding. So on to URNM. And we're going to get some more clarity here with these head and shoulders patterns. Okay, so this is a picture perfect head and shoulders, right? And I know we looked at the 2-day on URA in my last video. Let's just see what the 2-day does. Yeah, not it smooths it out. It takes a lot of the wickiness and the volatility away. But yeah, it's the same type of deal, right? So we could look for the measured move, which is what, 42.50 to what, 49.50. So we've got a $7 possible measured move here. And what does that get you if you go to $7? 41, 40. I'm on the daily. There was supposed to be, there's a gap down here. Where's that gap? Well, lo and behold, it's kind of in that $7 range. So, none of us want to face the reality of this being a possibility, but it is at the moment. And these measured moves, along with the gap fill, tell you that you can't say it's not a possibility. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's getting there. I'm just saying that I'm aware of it now. Okay, it's something that's in my mind. So, on to this weekly. We are in weekly consolidation, obviously. And there is a very good possibility that, it comes down and touches this first 12 EMA moving average. It would be very, very healthy. So that's kind of where we sit here. It's starting to put some frames in my mind about price action where, all right, well, I don't have to be as aggressive. If I am going to be aggressive, which I am, I'm actually fairly aggressive on some of these things. I like that we've gotten this gap fill here. It drew down into this, filled this gap almost to the penny, and it got its bounce, but it's rejecting and it's squeezing in between these EMAs. And URNJ is basically going to do the same thing. So, there's a gap down here, and gaps like to get filled. And I'm sure it's going to depend on geopolitical risk. It's going to depend on broad market, but that's the deal. And URNJ is not going to be much different as far as that's concerned. I got to see if there's a gap. There looks like there's a gap here. What's the low? 66. Yeah, there's a gap down here as well. So again, we have these looming head and shoulders patterns that you can't not take into account. So same deal. Everything's the same deal here as far as these patterns are concerned. That's what I'm watching. Just to take it a little bit of a step further, quickly, we'll look at NXE. I'm going to use a different. Let me use this. So next gen, it kind of had its head and shoulders. It's a little shallow. It was a different setup, a different look, but it had its head and shoulders as it started to play out. Broke the neckline. Is still, still consolidating. Decent little bounce, but nothing special. 12 EMA acting as resistance, right? UEC, little bit of a a better setup in the respect that, yeah, USC's regained its 12 EMA and is holding it now. It's back tested it twice. Now it's holding it, so a little bit better. But yeah, is there a head and shoulders pattern possibly forming? Oh, there is. Okay, so and it's it's right at the level. So there's make or break times here. So UEC, regardless of everybody's fundamental thoughts on it, it's one of the leaders in the space. Nobody can really deny that. I mean, as far as charting is concerned. So if you're not paying attention to it because you don't like the management or you don't like the assets or lack thereof, you still have to pay attention to the technicals. So, I mean, that's the deal. This is what I'm watching on these ETFs, and we're going to see how it plays out. This is all just question marks right now. And I posted this on Twitter today. Usually, when we have these little signs of war in any way, shape, or form, the word nuclear comes into play, and that can bring FUD into the space, and that could make these head and shoulders patterns confirm. So we got to be prepared for that, mentally and physically, and with dry powder, perhaps, right? Um, Generally, wars, as the old saying goes, buy the bombs. So generally, wars are, you know, suffice it to say, they're not always bad for equities markets. So be on the lookout for these things. Um, we get some nuclear FUD. I might consider it a buying opportunity. Time will tell. Patterns and levels will be my guide. Over and out.